this is the segment about my tarot decks and my tarot writing. And I'm going to make a statement that will probably confuse you. I met an author several years ago who also had a very successful tarot book, and we were sitting down, I'll admit, we were drinking a lot of wine and eating a lot of chicken wings, and we came up with an idea which I couldn't agree with more. And we both agreed that both of our books, including my original book, really brings tarot as something for women. It really is, a majority of tarot books are written by women for other women to read. And both of us were guilty of the same thing. And it started me thinking, and I was like, yeah, how do you get rid of that Mr. Wonderful White Knight on a horse, the Shining Knight type of crapola, as I call it. I can say that on the air, right? How do you get rid of that? And it took me a lot of work. I had to take everything that I knew about tarot in general. I've been studying, I guess you can say, I've been studying and reading tarot since the early 1990s. And it took taking everything I knew about tarot and throwing it out a door and coming back in a window saying, how do I reinterpret what has already been written for hundreds of years strictly from a man's point of view? And that took me a lot of work, and I wrote a book called Every Man's Tarot, Tarot and the Male Experience. And I thought it would be a very, very good book, and I turned around and tried to get illustrations for it, and I ran into a big problem. You must pay royalties for all of this. And I found out that the illustrations I had used on my previous tarot book, I could not reapply to this book. And the cost of those rights tripled or quadrupled. The company that owned the rights wanted literally my left arm and leg. And it was like, no, I got to do something here. So I drew my own illustrations. Now, I'm not an artist at all. So I had to sit down and draw. And I drew my own illustrations for the book. That was their original purpose. I had to have them reflect what I was trying to change and what I was trying to keep. I did not just take all the women in the tarot deck and throw them out and say, oh, they have to all be men. You still come up, even gay men deal with women in their lives. So I left certain cards that have no choice but are quite realistic, like the Empress as a woman, Justice as a woman, the World as a woman. I left those there. I left all the queens as women. I can hear snickering in the background. And I readjusted the rest of the deck to match. And that took some doing. Here it is. I created 4 characters. If you know anything about tarot, there's 4 suits, and rather than just having random people in a suit, I chose a man to go through that entire suit. And of course, if you haven't seen the other video or the other 2 videos, you know I have a big ego. I put myself in one of those suits. I am the man of pentacles in my little shorts and my little blue shirt. And I created for the cups a couple of different things. I ended up putting a man in a suit with the water symbols on it, and he started looking Native American, and I left him that way. I created, which I didn't realize at the time how much this looked like a friend of mine, Mr. Bear in his cargo shorts and boots and his flannel shirt as the suit of wands, and then I created Mr. Uptight Button Down as the man who creates all the cards in the swords suit. So for someone with no artistic talent, I created 78 illustrations in 30 days, which is monumental. So I put them in the book, got the book published, and sent it out to the world, and I'm actually not doing too badly with it. But it would take about another year because this is a different process than publishing. I took finally all of the illustrations and turned them into their own standalone deck. There we go. So I created the Everyman Tarot and took all of those separate illustrations and made them into cards. This turned out to be a real PIA, but some of it was really simple once you found out what was wrong. And I have since turned around and colorized this deck, which should be out by the end of September 2014. So I do have the deck that matches the book that I've written. Pretty good quality stock. There are several companies that you can turn around and do the same thing I did. You just have to create the right size artwork to make them come out right. But anybody look familiar? I don't sell this deck directly. It is available online. If you've seen one of the other extras that we have, I did have a special edition came out. And after all, it is a men's deck. So I did have the jockstrap edition, which came in a little jockstrap. It also came in a white gym sock. This was produced by a totally different company for me. I had to make the jocks myself. There's only one or two of these left. So if you're really interested in a jockstrap edition, contact Vermont Productions, because there are none of these available, and you're never going to walk into Barnes & Noble or any of those places and find the jockstrap edition of the Everyman Tarot. In fact, just like my books, everything published that I have that's published is print on demand. So when you order it, it is printed especially for you. And realistically, order any of my books, you'll probably get them within 4 days. This depends on how big a volume they have. These are made by a company that does indie games. Could take a couple of weeks, but you can own your own copy of the deck, own your copy of the book. It's a strange book, I'll admit it, but I really had to rethink an awful lot of things about why a tarot card would say different things to a man than it would a woman. But, you know, some of those books were, you know, the Knight of Cups is bringing a love token to his lady fair. I mean, that's such crap. I mean, come on. You know, what are you going to do when this card pops up in a men's reading? And that's what my book was aimed at. It's based on personal experiences, based on my experience as a man, and based on what I know about deciphering the secrets of the tarot. Anyway, this is the addendum to the men's segment, my tarot deck, the Everyman Tarot, which you can look up online and buy a copy or two. Buy one of each. Buy the black and white and the colored. It'll make me really happy. But once again, I'd like to thank Apremont for allowing me to suck up some time of theirs. I thank Bob very much for doing this shoot for me. Thank you, John, for allowing us to use your house. Thank you, everyone who's watched, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.